This is the plaintiff, Darrell Jones. He says he hired the defendant to do some minor engine work on his truck and agreed to pay him $200. After 4 weeks, the job wasn't completed, so we sent another guy over to see what the problem was. Turns out, the defendant ruined his engine, which wouldn't crank because it was seized up. Now his $200 job is going to cost him $2,000 because he needs a new motor. The defendant ruined his truck, refuses to cough up the money to fix it, and he's now suing for $2,272.23, the cost of a new engine and labor. This is the defendant, Troy Champion Sr. He says he did the work on the plaintiff's engine, and the guy took his sweet time picking the thing up. He told the plaintiff there was sludge in the oil, and if it leaked into the motor, the whole thing would blow. Sure enough, the engine seized on the plaintiff's truck. The thing had close to 300,000 miles on it, and sometimes things happen to old engines. How the plaintiff thinks he now owes him a new engine is laughable, and he thinks the judge will agree. He's accused of being a shoddy mechanic.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff hired the defendant to do some repair work on his truck and says the guy seized the engine up. But the defendant says that he's not going to put a new engine in this guy's truck. The truck has almost 300,000 miles on it. Anything could go wrong, and it did. It's the case of a little engine that couldn't.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Jones, tell me about your car. What year was it?
It was a 2003 Ford Expedition.
Okay, and how many miles did it have on it?
At the time, it had about 297,000.
Okay, and you brought it to him because what was wrong with it?
I brought it to him to have some preventive maintenance done on it prior to taking a trip out of town. Specifically,
What was the preventive maintenance you needed done?
Preventive maintenance to check my spark plugs to make sure that they were tight inside the engine, which he was going to charge me about $60 to do that.
Okay, and your complaint, which you state, is that you brought it to him to change the head gaskets on the engine.
The original thing was to check the spark plugs.
What are head gaskets versus spark plugs?
It wasn't head gaskets, it was intake gaskets. And
okay,
also,
what are intake gaskets? Then everybody,
Right.
Nobody's precise around me. What are intake gaskets?
intake gasket sits below the intake, and they have to be torqued down at a certain ratio. And originally, the spark plug tune-up thing was not true because somebody had already did some maintenance to the spark plugs because they had got cross-threaded. So he brought it to me to re-thread it and make sure they were in there tight, which I did.
Okay.
After doing so, it set a week or two, and he came to get it. I noticed all the coolant spraying out a little portion of the intake, which is where the gasket comes in at. It's a big job.
So you tell him?
I tell him, you could drive it, but, you know, pretty soon it's going to mess your engine up.
And therefore he should do what?
He should change that and have it fixed.
And did you do that?
Well, I had to change the price. Originally it was $200.
Yeah.
So when I noticed that the area that was leaking requires me to take the whole intake
Yes, I got
out.
it. So you were going to do what?
Remove the whole intake.
And then?
Replace the gaskets to fix the leak, but the leak was not in the intake. A portion of that chamber is connected to the bottom area of the intake.
Okay, so then what happens?
I couldn't reach the back. I called him a few times. I said, I'm gonna have to get some help, and if you can come help me, man, it'd be nice. He was pretty busy, I understand that. But, you know, he only lives like 1.5 miles away, and, you know, no calls back. And when he finally called me, I said, well, I don't know nothing about it, and see what you could do. And he just kept brushing it off for a while. So I finally called a mutual friend of ours to come over and give me a hand. And I did my portion when he did the back 2 bolts that I couldn't reach because of my spinal, adjustments weren't there. I walked away for a second, not knowing that it wouldn't start because the battery was dead. He took his battery out of his truck, put it inside his vehicle.
The other guy?
Yeah, and we decided to try to get it cranked, but not right away.
What's cranked?
Turn the key to turn the motor 1 time. This is a procedure. I go inside just to use the bathroom. And another mutual friend was already there too. They were both outside.
You're an alley mechanic, right? Everybody's in the alley?
No, I actually did work out of a shop for about 5 to 7 years.
But not this work?
No.
Where's everybody walking up? Okay.
This work was at my home.
Yeah, All right. So you come out of the bathroom.
I didn't come out the bathroom. I ran out the bathroom because I heard them turn the key all the way on, and I heard some noise, clunk, clunk, clunk. I said, please don't. I hope they didn't turn this key.
Why not?
Because the oil has to get changed. When I called him the last time, I showed him he had sludge in his oil, and that was the main reason why I really was a little hectic about it. I told him, don't start it all. It's just a turnkey. I have to change the oil, and I explained that to him also.
So then the guys that you allowed to work on the car, you didn't explain it to?
They knew already not to turn the key all the way on.
So they screwed up and turned the car on, and that's why the engine froze up?
Maybe because of the leak in the engine, it froze up because I didn't have an opportunity to change the oil.
Okay, so then it sounds like what you're saying is I had reached the point before I went to the bathroom that it was now time to change the oil.
Exactly.
I go to the bathroom, and then Mo, Curly, and Larry, who I've left with the car, turned on the engine, but they shouldn't have.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Well, then how do you not owe this guy money?
I didn't say that that was the main reason why it happened. I said that's a possibility of it happening.
What's another possibility?
Another possibility is that the engine was pretty old and it had sat a while and it already had coolant in the oil. So I don't know if it's...
How long had you left your car there?
Yeah, my car approximately from the beginning of October until it got towed November 30th.
That's a long time. Why was it there so long?
And unlike Troy said, I was calling Troy day in, day out to ask him about my vehicle. And then I had a unforeseen circumstance happen in my life where I couldn't call him until November, the top of November, November 3rd to be specific.
That's true.
And I started reaching out to him, about the truck. And one day he did answer the phone. He was in the store, and he was like, I don't want to talk to you right now about it. And I'm like, what's going on? He said, I prefer not to talk to you right now. I want to talk to you face to face. So I told our mutual friend, Telly, to go over there one more time. So he went over to Troy's house, and he's like, man, Troy messed up your truck, for lack of better words. And I'm like, okay, I'll be there.
It's hard to say who messed up your truck. It almost sounds like he's saying that whoever was turning the key while he's in the bathroom messed up your truck, which would be him. That's who he let touch your truck. But then he also says, and that's what he has said in the answer to the complaints, is your car is a quinceañera. I mean, your car is very old. It has 300,000 miles on it. So the issue of the seizing has to do with the sludge being where?
Already in the oil base.
Right. So the question then, did turning the key make the sludge go in, or was the sludge already in, sitting there for 2 months?
I had already just recently, before him working on the car, had an oil change done. So I don't see how the sludge could have been in the engine, bad oil and all that stuff with a fresh oil.
Let me see the receipt. What's your response to that?
My response is I didn't drive the vehicle. In order for the sludge to get in the oil, the motor has to turn.
So you're asking him to pay for a brand new engine for a car with 300,000 miles on it, because you're saying that the only reason this engine seized is because somebody tried to turn on the car. Is that the only reason it seized? Did you take the car afterwards? You had it towed and brought to a new place. Can I see the paperwork from the new place? Can I see your proof of what the engine cost you? Do you think the age of your car and the miles on the car might have something to do with any problems that you've been having, seeing as you had to take it to a mechanic at the beginning of October, then you took it to another mechanic after that? I mean, let's be honest. Most people don't take cars repeatedly in 1 month to a mechanic because they're working perfectly and they just want to check everybody. You take them because there's problems, right?
My truck was running smooth. It ran like a sewing machine. He asked me one time, somewhere in the end of October, can I use your truck? And I let him use my vehicle. Now, I didn't witness him driving it after that, but it had been told that he had been driving the truck around in town. I don't know. I did not witness that. That was somebody else told me about that.
That's pure hearsay.
Pure hearsay,
I'm not going to
exactly.
Consider it.
Exactly. But he asked me to drive it. He asked me to drive it one time only. He asked me to drive it one time, and I said I agreed to say yes. And
he asked you to drive it?
Yes, ma'am.
For what? For his personal affairs or just to test it?
Personal.
Is that accurate?
No.
Is he lying about that? He completely made that up?
He's not lying about me asking. No, he didn't. It wasn't a personal. I did go around the corner I stopped somewhere, but I had to listen to what was going on.
Oh, so it wasn't personal. It was because you wanted to.
I had to listen to the spark plugs.
Yeah.
Because they always had that tap in it.
Okay. This is kind of a hard call because it's very hard to tell whether this happened. In other words, it's very rare for me to see this, for the mechanic to say, oh, I think my guy, I wouldn't have turned the key, and I'm worried that that was a mistake. Usually that side says, it's a really old car, and they usually win because it's very hard to prove that they did something. Now he's actually trying to, he's trying to get to the bottom of why this happened. He's concerned that one of the reasons is because his guy turned the key. I think there's too many cooks in the kitchen, as it were. You're suing for almost more than the blue book value of your car because that's what it costs you to put in a new engine. I understand that. But I feel like the right thing to do here is to have him pay for part of it, but maybe not all of it. I don't like doing that. I like having a real answer to what happened. And I often look at your side and say, well, if you can't prove to me what happened, then too bad for you because you're the one with the burden of proof. But I'm concerned enough about what he said about the guy turning it where I have a feel like maybe that's something that contributed to it. So I'm going to order him to pay you $1,136.11. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
Wow.
So the plaintiff ends up getting half of what he was seeking here in court. Mr. Champion, how do you feel about the judge's verdict?
Well, I got to respect it, but I didn't agree with it.
I mean,
And we're friends, so, it don't help me much to know that this was the outcome, but I'm glad I got to the end of it.
Well, it was a close call on her
Yeah.
part. She have admitted that, so you got to give him back half of what the cost was. Okay. You say you're friends. Are you still friends now?
I'm not going to let anything materialistic come between a friendship. I wouldn't do that.
Good for you. Good for you. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You must sign a few documents on your way out of the court. All right, Mr. Jones. So you don't get the full amount. You get half of what you were seeking. You okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
What's the status of the truck right now?
I got the new engine in with 72,000 miles. It's running like a sewing machine
A
again.
new engine with 72,000 miles?
Used engine, but
Yeah.
it runs like
But the
new.
body has 300,000 miles on it.
Correct.
How long do you think you can nurse this thing alone?
I don't know. I'll let you know.
I mean, you're working overtime on it.
Yes, I am.
No question. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Almost 400,000 at this point.
Yes.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Good luck. Oh.
Okay, these are crazy times, folks, but we continue on here at People's Court. So if you have a case that you want litigated before Judge Marilyn Milian, you can contact us at peoplescourt.com. Our producers will get in touch with you, and if the case is right, you will be on the show. And guess what? There's a bonus. You can have justice dispensed right from your very own home.